Hello, Culture Matters. We are back again with another 30 days of thoughts, page 9091 on significance. This journey of 30 days of thought has me exhaling this morning. The angst to record, the apprehension to share what I think, to read what I wrote, to think think about whether I still think what I thought, to share it with you, feel naked and afraid and vulnerable and insignificant, yet what degree of pride or invulnerability or arrogance or, false, a sense of significance would lead me to feel all those things in the first place? Who am I to have such apprehensions? Uh, I'm just like you, searching, thinking, desiring to know the big answers, you know, the big answers. Why are we doing all of this? What's all this for? What's my life's purpose? Does life have a purpose? Is there meaning? Is there a meaning to life? Will I regret the choices that I've made at the end of my life? Will I look back and think, wow, I could have done more. I could have tried harder. I could have said this. I could have done that. I wish I didn't do this. I wish I didn't do that. I wish I had. I wish I had. I wish I had. Now, is that an inevitability that is inescapable no matter what we accomplish in this world? Maybe that is an inevitability. It's a part of our nature. Maybe an antidote to that is a faith, an irrational faith where our deep conviction in God, in a God, helps us throw away that ladder of reason and accept that the life that we chose day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, action by action, thought by thought was our life, and that it held meaning because it was ours. And maybe that belief, that faith cures those end of life thoughts, those, that dark quandary into what if and why and why not, that we may all face at our life's end, the last few hours of regrets. Maybe we don't have to go through that suffering at the end of our life. Maybe we can believe in our life. Maybe we can feel significance in our life. Maybe we don't have to end our life on such a low note. Maybe it could be a high note. Maybe it could be, if you listen to the last 30 days of thought, love. Maybe we could be surrounded by love. We could embody love. Maybe we could have significance. All this to say, today was a tough day to record this. It's like getting momentum. The day hasn't yet started. There's a deadline. There's a meeting in 40 minutes. I've got to share what I think with you to keep the thought to myself. To keep the agreement to myself that I will do this for myself. I've got to keep that commitment. So I've got to push through and do it. I've got to share what I think. I've got to think through what I think. I've got to improve myself and share that with you. And I've got 39 minutes. Here's significance. And I'll share my thoughts after having read it again and wrote down some notes here this morning. Um, why do we struggle? Who are we fighting? If only against ourselves. Where are we going? When do we run out of time? These questions race through our minds, and the answers to life may not have meaning as we feel out of time. Every ounce of our own personal being has been drained. I know this discomfort too well. I know you too well, my brother, my sister, friend, foe, kinsman. My life feels like it has been fulfilled for so long. But now, with false pleasantries, with a meaning null and void like a black hole of emptiness, nothing will or has ever been enough. When I see my reflection looking back, I no longer can see myself. Who was I to begin with? Will I ever know my truth? Who is this stranger staring back at me? Day by day, as the clock ticks away, ticks getting louder and louder, I curl up on myself in deep-seated emotion, hatred of who I have become. I feel like a fraud to whom I know and who I am. It seems like it is all for nothing and that there is no point. Life has no destination but the one I have chosen. In a fleet of outer desperation, a claim to be the one worth loving beyond myself and beyond my safety net. Woe is me, and why can't I just be? Where is my glory? A salvation, my life's meaning, and in times of trial, I have asked myself why and only heard the beating of my own heart. It lies within, and it remains clear. Yet the phrasing of the answer never comes. The only questions, however, are the ones invoked by unsettled emotions. Who am I? Where am I going? Will I ever be at peace? What is life's meaning? Without a sail, my ship is lost at sea, and the sea so vast and boundless that its own existence only proves my worry. Will I ever know me? It's just a black mirror staring back at me with no answers and only questions. Quiet desperation fills the cloud I find myself on, with self-constraint holding back my tears of outer self-pity and inner turmoil. Only you, black mirror, speak our inner thoughts. Only you. There's thoughts of identity that comes into this. And in the entrepreneurial sense, I wrote down this some time ago, actually. We must be careful while growing the business. Be careful we don't lose ourselves. In fact, there's an unthinking nature to the founding of a business. There's an non-contemplative nature to the beginning, to the inception of a business. It's as if we're caught in a narrative of belief and some of the lower, resentments, envy, the lower emotions caught in some narrative and a state of anxiety. And if, as a consequence, to cure that uncurable anxiety, tremendous actions are taken. Thinking is not a part of the beginning success of a business necessarily. It's acting and reacting and intuiting rather, and moving. And it's not only, but it's natural that thinking and in the consequence of strategizing and organizing and realizing, becomes more and more important and valuable the larger the organization becomes. That's as an aside. What what the behavioral tendencies and the mindset, as some would put it, the philosophy of the organization in the beginning, when it's tiny, is less, or it starts to work against an organization as it becomes an much larger, much more customers, more people, more eyeballs, more. And those that start businesses get sucked into the wake of that growth and lose not only a sense of themselves, because the business can easily be a mask of developing a sense of oneself, as it's almost as the business grows in proportion to the lack of awareness and to the lack of identity of the originating individual or individuals or originating consciousness. And that creates a whole host of problems for the interpersonal lives of the founders, family, and so on, as you see in many movies and TV shows and literature. It also creates a call to education and environment and awareness. If said individual starting a business wants to continue growing and running and maintaining it as it grows beyond their limitations. It's one thing to lose yourself to the world and never claim yourself. It's another, even set maybe more tragic, to not only never claim yourself and lose yourself, but to lose the business that was a manifestation of the lack of identity in the first place, to lose one's monument, one's creation, one's empire. That creates all sorts of problems for the founders that, in a very practical sense, sell to buyers, institutions, money people, more educated, oftentimes more intelligent, but not always, definitely not always, but more sophisticated or experienced or exposed human beings that can prey on the weaknesses that come as a consequence of success, which is, right, that Peter principle. We're promoted to our lowest level of competence rather. We're promoted to our lowest level of competence. In the founding and the ultimate leadership position is being in that position of authority, having power over others, and as a consequence to success in the sense of an abundance of resources and an abundance of relationships. If the reasons of the founder, or if in the founder's case, if the reasons of the chief executive, founder and chief executive, are not proportional to the resources available and the relationships available, they become entitled, and that's a state of entitlement that can actually influence depression, and unutilized angst, a void of meaning, paranoia, and distraction is abundant when there's abundance of resources and relationship to compensate for the abdication of responsibility of the founding of the operating leadership, the executive conscience, who works for the organization, who will gain significance as a consequence of taking on that next level of responsibility, which comes as a consequence of vision and strategy, which will be a result of education, of advisory, of environment, of enthusiasm, of which will have a relationship with the core belief structure of the person that's founded the business. So I'm reminded of rule 2 in 12 Rules for Life, which is treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. That rule may be naturally undermined as a consequence of now being reactive to all these employees, all these executives, all these leaders. I'm also thinking of Beyond Order, which I think it may have been written like this on purpose for them to align, or it could be a coincidence. But rule 2 is in Beyond Order, the second of that compilation is imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that. I believe, yeah, imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that. So if we take those 2 rules, rule 2 and 12 rules, treat yourself like you were someone responsible for helping. Treat yourself like you're someone responsible for helping. That's look around, what's around you, who's around you, what are you responsible for? Handle that. Focus on bettering your current environment. And then rule 2 and Beyond Order, second book, imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that. That's having an aim at the highest good that's in alignment with the current set of responsibilities. So if you're at the helm of a business, your business, get your house in order, handle your business, and then figure out, well, what's next for this? Where are we going next? The people will perish without that vision. And it is a struggle. So the first 90 on page 90, significance. Why do we struggle? Who are we fighting if only against ourselves? Where are we going? When do we run out of time? We don't know when we run out of time. That's where the sacrifice comes in work. It's sacrificial. It's meaningful as a consequence of literally choosing our future self at the loss of our current self. We could die right now and our life was for naught. Well, it was meaningful because that's the point. It solves the paradox. We could die, but instead I choose to do this video to serve you because I'm aiming towards my highest good. And in consequence, I'm leading the team based on our value set and our objectives and our goals. And I'm aiming towards where we're going in the future, where my future self will be as a potential to become a reality. And I don't know when I'm running out of time. So that's beyond me. So it's a sacrifice to do this right now, especially, and it's a test. So, why do we struggle? We struggle because we don't know the limitations of our potential. It's just potential. It's an infinite probability set. Who are we fighting if only against ourselves? We aren't just fight. Well, this is where I wrote down, we fight ourselves through others. Same struggle. Everyone is humans. We're struggling. We are in struggle as it relates to who we are today, what we've done or has been done to us in the past, and who that makes us to ourselves and the culture. So past, present, what our circumstances are today that has a relationship with the past, and of course the future. Where are we going? Where do we believe we can go? Where can we go that has limitations relative to our innate talents, our innate capacities, but also what we've synthesized through our innate talents, capacities, what we've learned, what we've unlearned, what we've relearned, and so on. And so in this fight, so we fight ourselves through others, same struggle. We're all in this fight together. We're all competing against ourselves, but we're also quite literally competing against others and competing in everything. It's a competition of, even if we're not opting in, we're competing as a consequence of being a socially integrated organism. Like we are, because there's a cooperation in competition. We as individuals benefit psychologically in our brain and it's some sense in our spirit and our mind as a consequence of competing in ways that simultaneously beat others and pulling them up because others benefit from competition. We all are the consumers. So in a business context, if 2 companies are competing against one another, they're helping each other inadvertently because the people they're helping are consumers, and consumers are the ones running the working at the companies. So we're all, the rising tide lifts all boats. Despite the competition and losing, we might lose the game. We all win the war, or we all win the championship if we're moving forward into the future. So why do we struggle? That's a component of life. That's a podcast for another day. Who are we fighting? We're fighting each other and ourselves, and how we fight has a relationship with meaning and anxiety and how we construct ourselves to be better fighters that continue to help our ourselves get to our potential as well as others, or something quite the opposite. We tear ourselves down and we tear others down, and it would just go down farther and farther and farther and farther down into hell, metaphorically speaking, I guess, or maybe not. That's another podcast. When do we run out of time? We don't know. If only against ourselves. I'm just on that first sentence. These questions race through our minds, and the answers to life may not have meaning as we feel out of time. And this, in closing, I would say, be careful. Be careful. The climb makes me question everything. As the business grows, we lose ourselves along the way. We must be careful while growing the business. Be careful we don't lose ourselves. My significance comes from my business. That's tragic, yet inevitable at some level. And maybe admitting that, or being willing to even think it as a reality, could help you, or me, could help us integrate into society, the family that we may or may not be adequate responsible for currently, our community, the general culture. Rule 4 and beyond order, notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. I mean, think about the business owner who's absolutely responsible in their work, but abdicated responsibility in their home. And someone now is, their spouse has fell in love with someone else. Because in one context, it was abdication of responsibility, which would be the home. In another context, it was absolute ownership of responsibility. So now, does it have to be that way? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. But that's a scenario I think anyone can understand. Or the absent parent emotionally and mentally to the child. The child now, they've abdicated responsibility of parenting, and they likely did it unintentionally. The child now is getting more leadership from their peers that are getting them into drugs or this or that, or influencing the child in a negative way. So, there are multiple mediums that are in competition for one another for our ability to respond, for our ownership. And that's where you hear these cliches like work-life balance, that if there's multiple mediums in competition for our time and our space, and we only have so much time and space, then that would lead me to think that they're constantly out of alignment, and it takes a whole life intention to realign what's misaligned as we go from one medium to the next to the next. So I'm excited to see your videos, whoever you are listening to this, your thoughts of 30 Days of Thought, as you read to think, write to develop, listen to hear what is unsaid, and speak to let go. And I'm going to keep going through the book. Please leave us your review on the Culture Matters podcast, and I will see you next time.